Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to One-on-One Conversations with Harness You. Last week was pretty amazing, the feedback that I got back, and I'm really glad that you're appreciating all the amazing people that have come on to share their time and their wisdom with us. You know, I'm really special to have them in my life and in my work. So thank you for the kind comments. And today, oh my goodness, today we have another special person. Dale Thorn and I worked together at a former boot camp, and we were just like partners in crime. You know, he dubbed me the Red Queen, which I'll explain at a different time. But I saw Dale's empathy in live action, and how that really had a positive effect on people as they're transitioning from one place to another. And we're going to be doing a lot of that the next couple of months. Excuse me, I have to put my glasses back up. And I can't think of a better person to share his wisdom right now. You know, part of the reason that Harness You is doing this is that we're pulling from people that work at the intersection of tech and education and community and faith and well-being to just really help get everybody through. So, okay, Mr. Dale, no pressure there.
Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Dale has a really interesting story. He grew up in Northern California, and part of his backstory is what makes him so uniquely qualified to talk about this subject. So take it away, Dale. Just tell us about your background and how you got into tech.
Okay. So a little bit about myself and my background. So from what you just said, so I grew up in Northern California in this little town called Kelseyville. At the time when I was growing up there, it was around 4,000 people. Now I think it's around 3,500. In California, it's the poorest county in all of California. Very agricultural, used to be the paracapital of the world. It's the location of the largest natural lake in all of California.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Largest natural lake. So a lot of bass fishing, a lot of camping happens up there. Whenever I bring up that area to people, especially in the Bay Area, most people don't know where it's at.
I know it's at the tip of wine country. That's how I know it.
Yeah, there you go. That's the main reason why people know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, give a little more context. Like when I was growing up there was 8 stoplights in the entire county. My mom's receptionist at a doctor's office, and she would have patients come in, and because everybody knew one another, she would hear about me speeding on the other side of the county. My dad's a painting contractor, has owned his own business for decades. Really successful, and basically growing up in such a small, tight-knit community like that allowed me to learn empathy and compassion at a very young age. And in 2006, I eventually graduated from high school, and moved down to the Bay Area to go to San Francisco State.
Big difference.
Big difference, and that's the big reason why I chose to come down to the Bay Area. Like I was accepted into several different universities, but I chose San Francisco because it was drastically different. Because I wanted to challenge myself and see exactly like who I would actually become. So at SF State, I ended up studying finance. Didn't graduate, and in the midst of going to college, I worked in restaurants, several restaurants throughout San Francisco, and eventually I found my way into tech because I didn't feel like I was going anywhere with that kind of trajectory. I felt like I needed to build up myself and grow more as a person, and then also allow other people to grow more as themselves as well. So eventually I was going on different job listings, and I was looking up sales, because when I was working in restaurants, like I was selling plates of food, I was selling cocktails, and so sales.
Been there, done that during college. Yeah, you are a salesperson.
Exactly. And so
you're also a customer success person.
There you go. So eventually, so I started going on job boards and seeing sales development And I was like, what is sales development? And so I was like, all right, maybe I'll just try for these roles. And eventually I ended up getting in technology as a sales development representative. And I've been in technology so far nearly 5 years, or around 5 years. And I've worked at a variety of different companies, all the way from small little bootstrap companies all the way to companies such as like IBM. As an individual contributor, as a sales development representative, whose primary role is to open up opportunities with businesses. And my main focus was doing it on an outbound level. So there was no prior interest, but I was creating interest through my activity. And eventually I became an enterprise account executive. In the midst of me being an enterprise account executive, I started participating as a volunteer at that boot camp, where I trained more than 100 students to become SDRs, or sales development representatives. And in turn, they were transitioning just like I had before, moving from a service role at a restaurant or some places.
Uber driver, you name it.
From all across the landscape.
Retail.
Exactly. And then in the midst of all that, the reason why I started doing that was primarily just to give back. I had an extremely hard, just transitioning out of that kind of world. I had an extremely hard time moving into a whole nother direction. I didn't have
a whole nother culture too.
Exactly. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to go about it. I didn't have anybody to go to. And so I had to figure it out by myself, and it was extremely hard. And so I learned everything the hard way. And so the reason why I volunteered was just to give back, and so others wouldn't learn the hard way like I did, because I learned it, again, so hard. And in the midst of all that, I found continued around my passion around helping others with empathy. So as of right now, I'm a sales development manager based in San Francisco at a company called LiveRamp, where I manage a team of 8 amazing enterprise SDRs. I couldn't be more happy and more grateful to be part of their lives.
And by the way, folks, before I started this interview with him, I asked Dale, I said, okay, being a former salesperson, I said, today's the last day. Do you need the day? We can re-interview you later. And he goes, no, we're all over 100%. And so I'm doing this high 10 through the screen to him. That kind of says a lot about your leadership skills. And what do you think it is about empathy that is so important, not only as an employee to have, but as a leader giving it to employees?
Well,
or sharing it with employees. Sorry.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So because I came from such a small, tight-knit community like that, and allowed me to learn empathy and compassion, that's where my foundation lies. That's who I am as a person. And then I just explored that and continued an area where I felt like I was performing really well. And so and allowed me to be successful in my career thus far as an individual contributor. And so in turn, with my reps that are and SDRs that are currently on my team, I showcase and I push that to them, because in order for them to be successful in their career, they're primarily working with enterprise companies. So they have to take a very personalized and empathetic and compassionate approach to build more credibility, trust, engagement, and in the long term, add value to LiveRamp. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so. In fact, last week I was interviewing Letty Emiraj, who's a 20-year tech veteran who sold at enterprise VP of sales at Salesforce. And she was talking about the amount of energy it takes to manage those relationships when you're managing 10 to 15 of them a day. Mm-hmm. And how do you save enough left out or left over for you at the end of the day?
Yeah, no, that's also a great question. The way that I managed to balance it, in my eyes, I personally believe in a work-life harmony, not a work-life balance. The reason being is because whatever I do in my personal life will affect me in my work life, and whatever happens in my work life will affect my personal life too. And so with anything that I do with my reps or in my every day, I feel like it's something that I'm building myself and becoming more self-aware and then growing as an individual. So in turn, it's
Excuse me.
Pardon you.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. But yeah, long and short, like I don't balance it because my mind is thinking about making it more harmonic. And so in turn, like because I'm constantly growing as like on an ongoing basis, it's hard for me to get too tired or too burnt out doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually, it does very much. In fact, when people often ask me what I do, I said, I feel purposeful in what I'm doing. And the way that you're talking about it reminds me of how I feel about it. So dare I ask, it sounds like you've created a very purpose-filled life for yourself.
My I I full-heartedly feel like my purpose is to help others.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, that not one instance in your entire life was solely from your undoing. It was always because of others. Your way that you feel on a given day is primarily because of other people. And the things that the where you get, like the where you progress in your life is because of others. You know, having that understanding that people are the most important part of your life, and also and how you experience life, and then you dive into it and you try to always continue to be empathetic and to see the world through other people's eyes, things become a lot easier, and in turn it becomes a lot better, not just for yourself but others as well.
One of the other things that Letty was saying last week is, as salespeople, our lifespan is, we're like bees. We're birth and we die in a 30-day cycle. I don't know how else to say that, but we live and die by a calendar. So how do you talk about having a harmonic lifestyle, but you're still juggling the clock all the time.
You always are, right? You always are. But at the same time, like even if you're juggling the clock on an ongoing basis, then you have to find what you really are passionate about and the things that you really want to do. And that comes with, and in turn, then you're using your time in a really effective and efficient way. And the way that you're able to do that is to practice more self-awareness, to understand how you go about things, how you feel about things, how you answer to things, but most importantly, how you question things too.
Oh, I like that. That was the pearl I was looking for in this 30-minute conversation, although I know there's more. For a lot of people that are probably going to be shifting from hospitality and retail, we're hearing on the news that, all these retail stores are furloughing, and hospitality, God knows where that's going to be. What kind of advice can you give people that will be retooling their skill sets to present themselves as potential employees in the tech arena? Because right now, tech is the only one, well, not the only one, but one of the few industries that's still thriving in all of this. In fact, during all of this pandemic, tech is probably being utilized more than a lot of other things. I don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting the medical profession, but they rely on tech as well. So what are some suggestions and tools that you can share with the folks that are going to go through this process of reexamination?
Yeah. So the two key words that you brought up were retooling and reexamination. Because again, I'm coming from the perspective that like my foundation where I grew up was the groundwork for who I am today and what I've become and what I've built to a certain degree. So if anything, it's like to retool and to re-examine like the current situations that some people are currently in, is to do a lot of self-reflection and examine and question the things that and the places that they came from, the experiences they had, and then do a self-evaluation of who am I as a person, and then in turn it'll give better direction of where they want to go. In turn, like I did a lot of self-reflection to know that like, all right, I'm a very empathetic person. At the same time, I'm always growing as an empathetic person too. And so, all right, what direction can that allow my passion or who I am, what can I do, and what direction should I go in order to build upon that even more.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Very much so. Um, but drilling down even a little bit further, I know before we started recording this conversation, you and I were talking about some skill sets that could be easily transferable. You're a sales manager, you'll be interviewing for people.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the specific tools and skill sets that you're going to be looking for in potential employees? That if you're coming from outside the industry and coming in it, what are some things that folks are going to need to know before they walk into that interview?
Yeah. So there's two key things that I primarily look for. It's again around self-awareness, because
Okay.
if there's not a deep understanding from the candidate that I'm talking to, if they don't have a good sense of self-awareness, it's hard for me to coach too. So in turn, if they don't understand themselves, how can I even potentially even understand themselves? The second point is talking with numbers and data. The reason being is because any work experience, you're part of a business that is generating some form of revenue or hopefully profit. So in turn, like even in a customer success role, or working as a cocktail server, or working at a car rental, or working as an Uber driver, it doesn't matter. You're in any of those situations, you're working at part of a business,
Mm-hmm.
and the business is understanding what kind of numbers that you're driving. In
Mm-hmm.
turn, you should be self-aware of what kind of numbers that you're driving in the midst of those experiences.
So let's say specific to, let's say, an Uber driver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to me, important data that I would look for would be how many 4 out of 5 or 5 ratings does he get out of the percentages of total, fares that he or she picks up. And as a waiter or a cocktail person, it's how much revenue did you generate in that evening.
Sure.
And so it's hard when you're in that industry to see how what you do brings value to another one. Same thing with retail. It's a sales position like anything else. I don't know if a lot of stores have monthly retail quotas, but I'm assuming there's some kind of understanding there. How much of that did you perform? So
Yeah, exactly.
in any industry, you can find performance metrics. You just need to know where to look for them. Would that be correct?
Exactly. And so the main ways for you to take a look and to find those is by really just asking questions, or finding out what questions to ask and who you should be asking those questions to. The reason why I dig into those two areas around self-awareness, but also
Mm-hmm.
the data, talking through, when a candidate talks through their data or their numbers that they performed in their previous role, it shows to a certain degree around your own self-awareness of the value that you drove. And so even in the midst of say as a cocktail server, how much revenue they generated on a given month, then
Mm-hmm.
then at that point I dig into every single day. Then how many tables did you serve? And then how
Mm-hmm.
many places would typically go back, and how did you perform to other people? How many of those were actual food, and then beverages? I would dig extremely deep into all those to see how much self-awareness or self-reflection they've done, not just in their personal lives, but in their professional lives too. So then I can go back to myself and say, how can I coach this person to be better? And at the same time, how can I help this person get to the place they want to be at?
The other thing that I think is kind of important is learning how to shift your narrative from one industry to the other. And, you were mentioning self-awareness and the value that you bring to the equation. Just as I was listening to you, there was a part of my brain going, the value of the tip against the total dinner is a great indication of how you satisfied that customer. And I don't know if a lot of hospitality folks realize that that's an indicator of your performance. based on your customer's experience. And so it's interesting. I think these are all the things that folks that are shifting from one industry to another really do need to reflect on, because it's valuable to them. But in terms of shifting narratives, are you, knowing that somebody's coming from without the industry or outside the industry, what's going to make you, aside from the self-awareness, what kind of narrative is going to sell you as a sales manager?
That they can speak and tell a good story.
Yeah.
That's in a very short and concise manner. If they're also very conversational, and they're able to articulate what their true motives are.
Oh, those are three really important ones. I've often, with some of the folks that I'm mentoring, I've often suggested that before that question's even asked of, tell me about yourself, is to kind of lean in a little bit at the beginning of the interview and say, here, let me tell you why I'm here. I want to be respectful of your time. These are the values that I bring to the equation. I've researched your company. This is kind of where I think my skill sets can fit in. And this is how I know I can help you get a bottom line, an increase in your bottom line. If somebody started a conversation like that with you, how would you feel after hearing that?
I would feel that I was trying to be sold to.
So don't recommend that.
I like having candidates or interviewing people or even talking to people that are very prepared.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain degree, if they structure it in a way that it comes off less sincere or more salesy, it's hard for me to push it or to move forward from that.
But if it's a genuine narrative,
if it's a genuine, I'm stumbling on my words, a genuine narrative, then absolutely.
Okay, cool. Any other suggestions you can give our audience?
In all honesty, just be yourself. Just be yourself. Because there's one thing that's not going to, you will always build upon who you are. And that should be understood by anybody that hires you or manages you, or any business that you work for or with. And in turn, you're going to be yourself as much as you possibly can, because you're basically showcasing who you are as a person to those people, because they're going to be spending on average 8 hours a day or a third of their lives with you. And there should be some kind of continuity, should definitely have some continuity. So you're building off of initially who you are as a person to build more trust, credibility, but also a stronger relationship with. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, it totally makes sense. Now, for the people, my last question, my $100 question here, for the folks that have not interviewed online before, it is a different animal. I mean, because in person, you can watch the person react and you can read the body cues. Obviously, just looking at us, you kind of get the picture just from here up. So how in a nutshell can we teach people who haven't done this before how to feel comfortable in that environment?
Yeah. Me personally, this is what I do. Given I'm currently working from home, working remotely, starting your day just as you normally would if you're going to be working as a professional. You would wake up at an early hour, or the hour that's appropriate for you in order to get set and get going. Get ready the way that you usually would, by either taking a shower or doing your normal routine. And so you're not stepping out of the ordinary. You're kind of still building upon who you are and what you really need. And then, does that answer your question, or do you want?
Well, I was thinking more in lines of how to be able to read the cues online versus in person when you're interviewing, because a lot of it is, the interviewer is watching the interviewee react, and the interviewee is watching the interviewer react. So how can you read the cues with only having the shoulders and the face as your place of observance. That
Yeah,
makes sense?
it just me on a me personally, the way that I would go about it would just like talk to them as a normal person. Like, don't
So
think
just
of
stare into the camera, so to speak.
stare into the camera, try to make as much eye contact as you possibly can.
Yeah.
But also realize that they're just another person on the other end too. The moment you feel like you're putting them up on a pedestal is the moment that you probably feel a little nervous, a little scared, and then you'll come off less genuine, and turn like people typically want to stray away from people that are less genuine. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. And um, we were laughing before we got on the interview. You were asking me about my poster. And I remember last week when I was talking on the phone with you, you had your series of surfboards on your wall, which, folks, he has this amazing collection of um,
Skateboards.
skateboards. Thank you. Blonde moment. Sorry. Um,
I'm
and
a
so,
I'm a skateboarder of more than 17 years.
yes. Um, so what's the right amount of personality to put in the background versus too much?
Um, that's also a great question. Some type of personality in the background. Yeah,
Well,
that's
like today you have the fern and then and what have you. It's a little bit of a different background than what you had last week. Would it be appropriate for like me to have this sign in back of me or just have it a blank screen?
yeah, no, that's definitely totally appropriate because that's a reflection of your personality. Like to give you, I know in the back there's a lot of plants, and then there's maybe you can see my bar card on the side of me, but also like also a lot of black. I'm very like it's kind of a self-reflection of or showcasing how I'm very direct. I'm very black and white. That means I'm very like to me that's in my eyes I'm very transparent, but I'm also like always looking for a form of growth and any way that I could potentially make this even better than it already is.
Oh, I don't think it can get better than it already is. You're already just the top of the heap in my book. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I have to tell you, in all honesty, folks, he resides very deep and deep into my heart. So, no embarrassment there. But we've been through the gauntlet together, and I think that just kind of bonds us forever. But Dale, I just thank you for sharing everything with me this afternoon. This is the meat that what I wanted to try to accomplish in these one-on-one conversations, because lots of times when you have a panel, you just hit like the tip of the iceberg. And I think these days call for a deeper dive of what's under the tip of the iceberg and really trying to provide some real world tools for people who are going to be making some major league changes in their lives, how to do it and feel comfortable about it and just know that we're all going to come out of this and we're all in this together. So I again appreciate your empathy, always will, and I just thank you for your time. I think this is really going to help a lot of people. So I just want to say thank you.
If anything, thank you, and I hope to your point, I hope this really does help a lot of other people as well. And then I hope everyone knows that like we're here. Jan and I are both here for that same reason, just to help other people become better as individuals, but also grow as professionals too, in the direction that they really want to go in.
I think I can't say anything beyond that. So I'm just going to say thank you again and see you out on the street, my friend.
Oh,
wait a minute. No, I can't. Oh, 6 feet apart, I can.
I'll FaceTime you later.
There you go. Dale, thank you. I appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day, okay?
Thank you. And you too, Janet.
Bye.
See you.